And welcome to episode 16?
16.
16. Alright guys, let us know if you can hear us and everything. We'll make sure everything's working properly. If we're too loud, too quiet, annoying. I'm sorry, we're annoying, so you just have to get used to that part. Yeah. Especially John.
Indeed, that's my stock and trade.
Stock and trade. So let us know if we're okay. Other than that, welcome to it. We're finally back as a team again. Holidays are over. Yes. Which I didn't go anywhere. I spent my entire holiday. I will be spending all of my holidays at home, I think, this year.
All of the
Dallas Kemp says hi to you, Kathy.
Oh, hey, Dallas. You're almost
the Facebook.
Dallas is watching us on Facebook Live. Thanks, yes, Dallas. You're awesome. So, holidays are... Okay, Thanksgiving holiday's over, since we're all Americans and we have to deal with that. Other than that...
That means you're allowed to play Christmas music now. You're permitted.
Yes.
I'm so relieved. I'm so relieved. Now I get to start watching Christmas movies, too.
You like Die Hard and Lethal Weapon.
Woohoo!
Oh, Lethal Weapon. I'm not thrilled with Die Hard, I have to tell you. I'm not a big Bruce Willis fan. I'm not a Die Hard fan. I just don't care. Lethal Weapon, on the other hand...
Oh, you got me in the heart with that. Die Hard is, like, one of the best action movies ever.
Yes. It's mandatory.
But, you know,
it's like standard...
Everyone's allowed to like what they like. It's all good.
So, let's go ahead and start with our ritual from the olden days. Kathy, what you drinking today?
I am drinking gin with ginger ale.
So you're doubling up on the gin.
I have gin, I have ginger ale, and I'm also drinking tea. Because, you know, I like tea. This is Earl Grey. Loose leaf, Earl Grey, yum.
And John, what are you drinking today?
I am drinking, I've got a shot of Wild Turkey American Honey.
Let's go one
more. And then I've got some Wild Turkey American Honey mixed with some Coke.
Oh, man. I'm doing, of course, my standby. Well, I wouldn't say standby. It's now, because I don't think I'm going to drink it until I'm completely done with it. Maybe. I don't know. The good old Sortilege that I'm going to be working on. And I'm going to be munching on some homemade snickerdoodle cookies.
Oh, my God.
Just got to have to do it. I mean, it's like mandatory. It's like
so not dipping waffles in Sortilege?
No, I didn't even get to yet. I meant to do that this week, and then I had to take medication. And then I was like, well, I can't do that. So.
Oh, that's a good excuse.
Yeah.
It's the best excuse, actually.
And I do have my waffles. I do have waffles, so I'm going to have to try to do that.
Waffles.
Think I should, like, openly, like, live podcast that?
I think you should.
Yes,
absolutely.
Absolutely. I'll have to make sure I get all my Canadian friends and, like, hey, we're going to be doing this today. I'm going to be dipping waffles in Sortilege.
We could just have a Sortilege and waffle meetup at Adepticon and just have it live.
Okay. So, Spencer, you coming to Adepticon?
Working on it. We'll see how it goes.
I have all my fingers crossed.
I could do it. I'm just not sure it's financially responsible of me to do it. They keep raising the limit on my credit card. I'm like, I can do this, but I'm not sure this is the right idea.
No,
but
yeah.
We'll see. I got some. I had a really good week, really good paycheck last time, so from all that overtime time. So we'll see how it ends up.
I'll have to save it, because then we could do an actual live show with all three of us in person.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, hell yeah.
we could do one when we're drinking.
We'll make it happen. If all our proceeds have to go towards getting you to Adepticon, you know.
I don't think it would take that. I just got to run some numbers.
Don't run them too far.
Fair.
I mean, you do have to figure out a place to stay and, you know, tickets.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy a ticket if you're not doing anything. Am I right, Kat?
I'll be doing stuff, though, but I'll talk.
That is true. If you're not participating in events, you can do whatever the hell you want.
I'll talk to the crew and see who's going from the crew and see what I can work out.
From Kathy's mouth, here it is. If If you're not participating in events, you can do whatever the hell you want. That includes streaking.
That was exactly where mine went too. Like, pants optional! Oh, in any case.
All right, guys. To everybody, glad we're all back as a team. Ron.
Ron.
That's good.
So terrain.
Yes. This got brought up because people were asking about it, and our good friend Tectonic Dan, everybody knows Dan from Tectonic Studios. Him and I were talking about terrain stuff, and for the most part, a lot of games are using 2D terrain. But recently, there's been an insurgence of 3D terrain, which I'm like all for. So instead of talking about all the terrain and all the time, let's go game by game. I know that, Kathy, you may not know some of these games, but I think you can get the understanding. But we will definitely be talking to you about your hobby because your Guild Ball goal got a really huge response locally and online.
I'm hoping it goes over well at SteamCon this weekend, too. I won't be there, but I'm pretty sure the team will be there.
Well, I'm sure it will because that food was amazing. I mean, the steak was incredible.
Mouth watering? Did it make you hungry?
It looked real. I was like, that looks like what a steak would look like. I was like,
it's making me hungry right now.
There were strip steaks and there were rib steaks. Yeah. There were roasts.
I love all steaks equally as long as they go in my tummy.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Of course.
So terrain, before we launch into it game by game, I was thinking about it today, and I actually had a little bit of a revelation that goes back to GW's philosophy in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the problem that everyone's having is it's the idea of the hobby versus your hobby. And, regardless of what anyone else thinks, if you like 2D or 3D terrain, just use it.
Yeah.
Somebody gives you shit, respectfully, fuck them.
There is no wrong way to do your hobby.
Exactly. I wanted to start with that because everyone thinks, it starts flame wars, like, that's not the way you do it. No. The way you do it is whatever way you have fun with.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
You put books under a tablecloth to be hills. Looks good.
Yep.
I don't care as long as you're playing.
Oh, yeah. Definitely have taken tablecloth and put books underneath it as a hill for certain things. Because poor white trash. Didn't have money to go buy that stuff.
We took old styrofoam of anything, made it flat, cut a doorway, and that's a damn building.
Yep.
We do that to this day, but now we actually paint those particular things.
That's crazy talk.
Only difference, pill bottle, styrofoam thing, styrofoam packing material from when you got your TV shipped to you or whatever,
Yep.
Who didn't pile their green army men on top of stuff like that when they were kids?
I remember
made that once.
Yeah.
Perfectly valid.
I remember many a times be going to somewhere and be at work and they had to unpack something and I was like, ooh, that styrofoam would make a really cool fortress wall or something of that nature. So I'm like, I grabbed that and take it and would go home and paint it up and put it on the table and use it for, whatever game we were playing.
Mm-hmm.
But lately, terrain's been a big shift.
It is.
Let's go with the easy one that we all know, or most of us have seen, and John and I can know, and Kathy's seen it, is War Machine and Hordes.
Absolutely.
For the most part...
It may be the most divided. I would say it's the most divided.
It is. For the most purposes, everybody uses 2D terrain. For the most part, one, it's easy to pack. It's easy to store away. It's easy to put models on. But I always notice everybody likes to play with 3D walls.
Because you're not allowed to stand on them. And that was sort of my whole... We've talked about this before, so I'll go through it quickly. I like 2D hills because hills are always a pain in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they block line of sight, then you can make them 3D. Or you make a rule, like if I made a miniature game, I'd make a rule where going up a hill takes a little bit more movement than going down. So if you can't end completely on the hill, you can't make it on the hill.
Gotcha.
Likewise, going down, if you can't make it completely off the hill, you get a little momentum, you make it completely off the hill.
Yeah.
It's an easy rule that solves all the problems in the universe with hills. You can just have the flat styrofoam ones with sheer edges just to be hills, and boom.
Yeah.
Legionnaire says it right. 3D walls, 3D houses. I love tree templates with trees you can take off and put on. Correct. So glad that has become the standard.
Mm-hmm.
But water, trenches. Actually, one of my buddies from old GW days, showed up again recently. Started hanging out with us, and he mentioned when El Marshal got the blockhouse, it comes with 2 trenches, and they're pretty much flat.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, those don't look trenches. I'm like, yeah, but it's impossible to make trenches that fit on a board and are functional.
Yeah, that fit on a flat board without actually making your own entire board with a whole dugout area.
Now, if you make the entire board, I will play on it, and I will have the best time ever because that is super awesome. But
right.
In the gaming store, that's not realistic, or bringing it with you.
Yeah.
So I like the mix of flat and 2D. Anything you can't go over should be 3D, get in the way. Everything you can go over easily can be flat.
Well, I also think because with miniature, with War Machine and Horde, since it's such a competitive style type game, getting and putting, your model directly on that and making it so it's easier to stand up, especially timed turns or timed rounds or whatever. You don't want to spend a bunch of your time putting dice under a model to get them to stand on the hill, so they would be there. Now,
so they don't keep tipping over.
Correct. And War Machine and Hordes is a game that you win or lose by inches. Type thing.
Half inches, quarter inches.
Yeah.
Oh, most of those games are that way, where you're... Yeah.
So to memento into another game, 40K I've been playing recently, we just don't give a shit.
No.
We put terrain on the board now. They have ITC, which I don't know what the acronym means, unfortunately. That is their tournament commission type of dealios that has... These are the tournament rules that we widely accept as make the game balanced.
Correct.
Stuff like the bottom level of ruins count as buildings, so you can't see through them, you can't shoot in, you can't shoot out, and vehicles can't go in them. Which, okay, if you have a limited amount of terrain in a tournament and you know it's coming, is cool. But in your local game store, throw that shit out the window. I like the idea that a template of ruins does not block line of sight, or that does block line of sight. You can't see from one side to the other, but you could get in and shoot out. And then shoot in if they're in. That's cool. That keeps the, it keeps your imagination working. Like the guys aren't necessarily exactly where they are. They're like at windows and pop up and firing.
Is that kind of like woods? Like if you're on the other side, you can't shoot through it. If you're in it, you can shoot out.
Correct.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, in fact, Corby's right. Rules is written terrain in 8th edition is probably the only part of 8th edition that is absolute and complete garbage. Most terrain does almost nothing. And, I mean, I can tell you off the top of my head, the terrain pieces that do something. Most ruins and stuff like that give you a cover save bonus, give you an extra bonus to your save. Forests and craters give you a penalty to charging out of or through. And then they have what they call, battlefield wreckage, something like that. I forget the exact naming of it. Based off one of their old terrain pieces. It's like a little woods with a burnout rhino, where it's the same as a woods, and you might set off an explosive or mine and hurt yourself.
Well, I also think it comes down to a lot of things that with 40K is you need stuff that block line of sight.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many weapons that have so much long range that if you don't have something, it just turns in, I'm not moving, I'm just going to shoot the hell out of you. I'm not moving either, I'm just going to shoot the hell out of you.
The Adeptus Mechanicus player has no idea what you're talking about. That Stompy McLaserface is stock and trade. I come forward, neutron laser. Every game where there's been terrain, he's not been MVP of, because, he's had to actually work for his line of sight.
Do you actually have to strategize when you have terrain on the board?
Yes, it's great.
Yeah.
Actually,
that's what I love about using terrain, is it makes you develop these strategies. Also it's good for objectives. It's way better for objectives when you've got more terrain out there.
And it makes some of those mobile vehicles really good because you can use the terrain. You can come around here, shoot some stuff. If he comes back that way to shoot you, you popping around the other side, maybe not giving him a clear shot. I had a good game with a Blood Angels player who was using terrain to his advantage well. I'm like, you did a good job using terrain. I couldn't get clear shots until late. It was cool.
And then you've got games like Bolt Action where you can actually set your guy to ambush so that when somebody does come around the terrain and into your line of sight, you get your shots on them now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if 8th edition 40K, which uses all 3D terrain, I haven't seen anyone use 2D terrain aside from the forest templates with trees on them, because that's a stock and trade of the industry now. The other end is the competitors, which is Warpath, which is Mantic, the guys who do Kings of War, their game. They actually have a much more defined rule set for terrain that is still relatively easy. With such like if you're defending ruins or something against someone who's charging you, you get a bonus on your basically Overwatch fire, which I thought was really cool. Little advantages, nothing major, that make defending a piece of terrain against someone trying to come in and murder you good, because that's sort of what they use terrain for, to keep people from coming in and murdering you.
Yes.
But yeah, all those games, I see a lot more 3D terrain on. All those sort of 40K and 40K clones, if you will. Lots and lots of 3D terrain.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, last edition of the Steamroller packet, 6 pieces of terrain. They weren't even anywhere near, centerpiece. They were just like thrown about, and nobody really cared about it. A lot of models didn't even care about terrain. The newer edition, more terrain. They really like 8 plus pieces, all in areas, and they wanted to make it where it's more affecting the game, so you choose, but it's still 2D for the most part, because it's easier to, like I said, easier to fit models and stand models on for that purposes.
Yeah, and I have to say the terrain placement rules in the Steamroller are the best thing about the Steamroller packet, and that's saying something, because it's pretty good. Because every time we used them randomly when I was getting to play every week, we'd come up with interesting terrain that actually affects the battle, and I think that's the key that 40K players, no offense to you guys, you need to learn. Terrain needs to affect the battle. If you have terrain on your side, terrain on his side, all the objectives in the terrain pieces on either side, and there's a big death zone between you, you're going to get a really boring game.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
So,
I do like that. Go ahead, Kathy.
I was going to say, objectives, missions, campaigns, that's what makes it interesting for me. It's not just, I line my guys up, you line your guys up, and we shoot at each other. Or we both charge forward. There has to be some kind of a purpose to the game that makes it more interesting to me, and that's where I'm developing my strategies towards.
Yes. Because if going with, back to War Machine Hordes, they've added new terrain, which is, of course, it's the burning forest, rubble, the other things that add more to it, and the smoke and clouds and everything, which is good, because, alright, there's a forest, there's a water, but is that forest on fire? You can add some stuff to it, which some people were complaining that nobody does that. Our local store, when we do a tournament, we'll put like a fire token on it, or a smoke cloud, or, whatever, to do that, because it changes everything. I don't care if you have a model that's immune to fire, you will run through that fire terrain, because they don't care. Anybody else will walk around it. Me playing with Strikeoff 2. Oh hell yeah! I had a trench that was on fire, so I walked and put him in that trench. I'm like, go ahead. He's on fire in a trench and is immune to the damage. Yep, he'll stay there.
So that actually brings up an interesting thing. To segue for a second, if you remember, one of the last edition of Fantasy had mysterious terrain rules where all the terrain pieces could do something crazy.
Yeah.
And it was very, very cool, but it was not well received at all. And I unfortunately feel like those new terrain things, like the acid clouds and the burning forests and shit, are the same sort of thing, where they're just not well received.
I think it's also because it's change, and people don't like change when it comes to the tournament. That means, oh, that's acid. Oh, it means I have to go around it. Okay.
It means
good.
You have to change your strategy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, no, it's
God,
even one more than that.
It is a different strategy.
it's an exterior factor that is affecting the game more than actual terrain normally does.
Now, are these like the mysterious terrain? Are they random things that you don't know what they do until you enter it?
No.
Because I think that's the main thing people didn't like about the mysterious terrain is you didn't know what it was until the first model stepped foot in it and you had to roll on a table.
No, this you know right off the bat. It'll be like, all right, here's an acid token that's on water. Here's a fire token that's on trees, or here's a smoke cloud. So I mean, before you sit down, before you even put your army down, and you have to actually think about it. Like it says, if a model is immune to fire, I'm going to run through the fire. I don't care.
Yeah, my warjacks go through the water, the acid clouds. They don't fucking care.
Yeah.
It's 1 point of damage, whatever. I got to get through. It's all good.
That's cool.
My
cool
troop units that aren't, they're not going through there.
The problem is we have to shake people out of their unwillingness to change the side of the table.
Correct.
And that is probably the biggest thing. Is people sit down on the side of the table and if you've made a fair enough terrain, it's not a huge deal, which side you pick. So you're like, I'll stay here because I'm lazy.
But if the fire is on my side and the water or whatever is on your side, and that's more advantageous to me, then I can see how we would want to switch.
And that's a good terrain thing in general is maybe, especially if you get a third party sub-terrain, which happens a lot, make one side a little bit better than the other so people actually have to think about that and switch sides.
Or give certain advantages, because I mean, for the most part, live on Facebook. Let's see how that goes. I mean, just the simple.
Live on Facebook.
That was me on accident. I was refreshing pages that were blocked. So, getting things to go and work correctly, and not make it a big bookkeeping thing, because that's something I've seen also. Because whenever they had the clouds on there where they randomly went out, that became a problem because people forgot to roll for them, and now the clouds don't go out; they're just there. Yep, which is good.
So, moving on from the old standards, let's say, to something like Necromunda or Infinity,
oh my God,
where terrain is necessary, encouraged, and exceptionally encouraged to be three-dimensional.
Correct. If you did not have multi-level terrain and multi-line-of-sight blocking terrain features in Infinity, the game would be over before you can get to play it.
Yeah. You have to have terrain now. European style versus American style is a little bit different. Europeans have some lines across the field, but they run with a more moderate amount of terrain. American style is more like, more terrain! More!
Yeah. There was one time I was playing an Infinity game, and I put my sniper at the top of this building, and we piled terrain all through it. And even where I put him, I could still see things and kill things as they were moving around. And I'm like, we need to either cut the top of this part off, or say not use it, because I was just picking off models left and right. And I was like, this is not good for you.
The key is to put the big buildings in the center of the table where you can't put them not in deployment zones. Yeah. So to avoid getting into each game how to do it, each game has their idiosyncrasies of how to do terrain, and you really got to look at it. We played some Necromunda back in the day on 2D terrain, and it was not the same.
No,
it wasn't bad, but it was really different. It felt, I don't know, wrong.
Yeah, because you want to put. I want to put a model up high, so I can see and shoot down at stuff. I want that three-dimensional aspect to it because it fits. It fits the game. It fits the rules. It fits for the play style. You want that height and adjustment to stuff.
And locally, we see that's the problem with Infinity is that we don't really have any buildings locally that are more than 2 stories tall, and it affects the game a little bit because there's not as much of that cool. I'm going to use this guy who's got all the special rules in the universe to climb to the top of this building and just sit there with their gun and just start shooting all of your guys that try and do stuff. If all you've got the 2-story building, it's just not that good.
Yeah, and it's like doing with like Necromunda. I remember playing one game of Necromunda, and I haven't read all the full rules yet, but I remember a guy got shot and he fell, and then I was like, oh, now I got to do the falling rules. And the guy lived but became crazy because he took too much damage, and that was a random aspect of it. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And really, nobody plays unless it's a small model count game. They don't play with like falling damage hardly anymore. Like War Machine and Hordes, no falling damage. People don't care about that. You'd have to look it up. I don't even know. We don't even remember the full rules on that.
Yeah, I know there are rules, but we just stopped using the terrain that did that because it was extra bookkeeping.
Correct.
And the core of a game is called KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yep. What about games that require a lot of terrain but don't have a lot of height issues and don't care about a lot of height issues? One that comes to my mind plays on a 30 by 30 and they want you 10 plus pieces of terrain. Company of Iron.
I haven't played Company of Iron to really see, but I mean, I seem like that would use a lot of the. Well, it could use a lot of the same War Machine and Hordes terrain. You'd really want to go more into the Malifaux style terrain, since guys are moving around more individually.
Yes,
and that really is the thing. If you have more single models moving around, your terrain pieces can get crazier. Like whereas a forest template is the norm for the War Machine and up level games. In like Company of Iron or let's say Malifaux, who play on a similar sized table, similar number of models, a single tree is plenty good. I can hide behind a single tree.
Yep.
Especially now they put them on the little circle base. Like that circle base is your tree, and you know if I'm in it, you're getting cover. If I'm behind it, it's a tree in the way.
Yeah, and the few games I played with Company of Iron, everything's been about standard 2-story high maximum. There hasn't been anything huge. Walls, forests, water, and 10 pieces of terrain on a 30 by 30 is a lot of terrain, especially using like 2D buildings, which we use, which is really good. If someone could sell like a Company of Iron package where it's like 3 buildings, 2 walls, forests, and stuff like that, that would be like perfect, and of course affordable. But I mean, I want 3D terrain with my Company of Iron. Because, like I said, it's skirmish style, so I move one model at a time. I don't have to keep 10 models together. Don't have to keep, Unit Coherency is alright, but it's okay. Skirmish style games, I think it's great to have really good, packed 3D terrain.
Yeah, and honestly, I love 3D terrain for literally anything that doesn't have awkward models standing on it.
Yeah, the Batman game, same thing. You can have multi-level terrains there, and they use it.
Oh my god, see some of those terrain pieces they have?
Oh, yeah.
They're absolutely bonkers. I could use them for a lot of games, but man, they're huge and expensive.
Yes. I have not seen those. I'm going to have to look that up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely want to make some terrain for my Necromunda stuff. I have a bunch of pictures of Hong Kong that I downloaded to get a references for like a hive world kind of thing because they're so packed in Hong Kong.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I thought that would be a good reference.
What's that one area called where it's like super packed? It's basically a hive city.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's just... But I think that really what is I'm seeing is we will use more 3D terrain when it's a more skirmish style game.
Mm-hmm.
Or a skirmish ability. Like 40K does that, but you can space out pretty far on a 40K game because all you gotta do is 2 inches between each model, not 7 inches between the leader.
And honestly, so I would say this, that it's also more of how competitively you're playing the game is what I've seen.
Point. Very good point.
Because War Machine, everyone's so competitive, they want every centimeter, millimeter to matter. 40K, they just don't care that much. I mean, we measure charges. So I'm like, yeah, you gotta roll like a 9. You're fine. We've never really cared that much about them. So we're willing to go like, yeah, I'm in this building. Arranged. However, it's not important anymore. Templates no longer exist in 40K, which is great.
Yes.
Oh, that's so weird.
It's weird, but it means you don't have to worry about cramming your guys into cover to get the cover bonus and then getting a big template crushing you. They just all do multiple hits, which is fine. It's actually really cool. I think that's probably one of the best changes they've made.
See, in Bolt Action, they added templates. And people were a little upset about that, but that's another game where people like to have all the 3D terrain. At least the people that I've seen play it.
Oh yeah.
And, and it's so very similar to 40K, just sort of in the way that the guys move around and everything.
Mm-hmm. And, there's actually some really good bolt action terrain. One of our guys, I guess for like a cornfield or something, he cut out outside door carpet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Took
we have tons of that at the local store.
Yeah.
You know what we've been
cut out like
for?
a little squares of, I guess it's outdoor carpet. It's like,
have you seen the stuffed animal fur grass that people do? They airbrush the stuffed animal fur so it looks like fields of grass. It's really cool. And we're looking for that to add to our own terrain boards.
And actually, I've used that carpet using wheat fields as put it down on a table. Models can stand on it. It's firm enough that most models stand on it very well. And I've been like, that is concealment and no movement penalty.
Sure.
It's like forest bonus. I mean, it's cool terrain to have out there. We haven't done it in 40K. I mean, I'm not sure what we do it as 40K. We probably wouldn't bother because it doesn't seem impressive enough for,
Well, that's true. I mean, you're not going to be invading agrarian planets, I guess.
We wouldn't invade anywhere. There's technology there. Tech Priest Steve will find it.
What if there's mineral ore underneath the surface?
That can be used to make technology. Tech Priest Steve is there.
What's the other game?
Other games. Malifaux does a lot of the same Company of Fire terrain. We've had a lot of terrain pieces. It's funny that
Malifaux terrain.
And anything works in Malifaux. You go through and you define it. They have really slightly more complex but very solid rules for everything except height.
Mm-hmm. Their
height is realistic, and if you know anything about realistic height, it becomes problematic for line of sight purposes.
Yes.
If the height is not actual, you're like, well, this is height 5, so I can see over X, Y, and Z to shoot. Like, it's a pain, and unfortunately, that is probably the only terrain problem they have. Everything else is like, they have keywords like, is it blocking? Is it, hazardous? Is it, what have you? And you do define it all with your opponent beforehand, and you go like, all right, this is this, and go.
I also like the going back to Infinity, the model silhouette.
Yes.
The way they tackle line of sight with that, so you could have some crazy model with things sticking out, but it doesn't matter.
Actually, yeah, Malifaux does a similar thing where it's the base cylinder, sort of like War Machine, and they have a height value of its, what size is it? What height is it? Height 5? Okay, that means you need to hide behind height 5 or they can see you.
I like that mechanic, yeah.
Or what was it? What Fantasy at one point said it was, what was that rule that if you measured the attack from the weapon, and so everybody would like reach out their weapons really far, but to attack them, they had to you couldn't get them. There was a weird problem with that, and I was like, that
wasn't War Machine. That was actually
was it Fantasy?
Age of Sigmar.
Was it Age of Sigmar?
Yeah, it was more Fantasy. I really wish 40K would go to size where you can like, all right, it's on a base, it's X, an X height, so it's easy peasy, not with lances and stuff sticking out. I guess that's another thing they probably don't do very good is they really don't care. I mean, like, you can measure from any point of your vehicle. First off, it's really weird. It's very abstract. Which I guess is overall fine as long as the whole thing's abstract, but the terrain rules are way too abstract.
Yeah. I mean, and the terrain has to be complicated enough that I don't have to do calculations, and I don't have to do all this weird stuff. Like, all right, half movement penalty to go through this. If you move through this, X, Y, Z. There's just got to be something quick and easy. And not go, well, you got to do this, you got to multiply by 7, divide by pi,
Well, it's a matter of keeping it easy, but you can't make it too simple, then people feel like it's lacking.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, and Xander Varlord has a good point. Wing-style games are usually flat. Wings of Glory, X-Wing, all flat terrain, but that makes sense because they're all on bases. It's already a bit abstract, and you just need representations of where they are. It's almost like a board game plus.
Yes.
Armada's the same way because your model will have to overlap, and you can't overlap a space station if the space station's 3D, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Though, a cool idea is to make 3D terrain with the templates underneath them, which we thought about. That way you go like, oh, you're going to overlap that? Let's take the 3D one off so it doesn't look cool anymore, like with a forest, and you put your model on now.
Yeah.
We thought about doing buildings for easily in War Machine, where you just make sure every building has a template underneath it. All you need to measure real quick to see, like, all right, we'll take the building off, measure, the template's still there showing where the building was, put the building back. You know exactly where it was, no muss, no fuss.
We used to, when we used to play Aeronautica Imperialis, we had terrain for that. Because you're in the atmosphere of a planet, and you're zooming around all these high peaks or stuff, and they had rules for that too. So it wasn't quite like Wings of War. I just like those flying games because I used to play Wings of War as well, and or Wings of Glory now, and you could put terrain in there, I guess, if you really wanted to. We never did, but for Aeronautica, it was a lot more fun with extra high peaks and crazy impassable things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really adds an aspect to a flying game. And honestly, most atmospheric games, you have to have a reason for there to be terrain. Space games having debris and satellites seems like it would fit. If you're part of a big battle, there's space debris running around. That's cool. And I think one company actually did make 3D pieces in all the shapes of the initial X-Wing terrain. Also, in friendly games, you're allowed to use one of the big ships as terrain instead of all the pieces.
Oh, cool.
Which is kind of interesting, but that's one giant piece of terrain in the middle of the board. I guess you could circle around it and all, but...
Yeah. Kind of like dogfighting around the Super Star Destroyer.
Yeah, but only in 2 dimensions is kind of weird. And to be honest, having played a couple 3-dimensional flying style games, it is difficult as crap, and holy moly. One of my buddies ran a 3D Star Trek space combat game long before the WizKids put out their Attack Wing. And man, it was complicated as crap, but it's very cool at one point where someone's like, what's going on? Well, everyone's had to invert because of momentum, except for this one ship who's flying along normal. Everyone else is like upside down. And they're all normal. The one's normal. It was very cool, but very a lot more pieces to it. That's more of a you get everyone together, you play one game in a long afternoon than the stuff we have now.
I mean, for the most part, I love 3D terrain, but I understand the aspect of why we can't have it in certain games.
Yeah,
I mean, there's, like I said, I kind of want to stop talking about that, but I want to talk about the hobby part of it, because I remember many of days building 3D terrain, especially for 40K, because that's one I built a ton of stuff for. And going back to the aspect of, copier came in, and the styrofoam that the copier toner came in, pulled it off, I set it down, and a flag goes, that's a bunker. I can turn this into a bunker and start carving this up and getting styrofoam cutters.
The dark days.
And I remember my first time trying to prime styrofoam. Everybody remembers that first day we took that primer and went, shh, and then watched it melt.
We're super glued trying to glue it together.
Yep. I mean, one of the things, since Dallas was talking about it, one thing that I thought was funny was terrain stuff was Dallas plinth that he has that he puts like his models on for objective markers, and it's the orange tops. It's the orange tops.
We've used those for basing. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean...
They have this sort of Gothic arches in them.
Yes! Yeah, I mean, and that to me was like a really... When he showed it to me, he told me what it was, I'm like, that's really cool. I didn't think about it. Because I don't think about looking at things like that anymore, because you don't build terrain anymore for pretty much War Machine and Hordes. It's all standard and, like, says 3D.
Dude, we save so much garbage for building terrain. It's...
Arena Rex
spray can tops and pill bottles and vitamin bottles and milk caps and I mean, I could go on all day. Just tons of shit.
All right, I built an Arena Rex arena, and that was the first time I've started building terrain in forever. And it was like dental floss and wooden doll shingles.
You know what's good for? Speaking of shingles, cereal boxes for Cedar Shake.
Yep.
Yeah.
I saved the back to every pad that I went through of call logs at Games Workshop. I saved the back to them. I have them sitting in a box. They're just good little cardboard backs for whatever you need them for.
I remember days of 40K. We'd get together and goes, all right, let's do a terrain making day.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody would bring all their styrofoam, anything they wanted to make into terrain, and we would all bring it together. And we're like, oh, I could do this and this and this with it, or I can do that. Bendy straws with a little.
Oh
tubing.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There'd be the tubing for what? Yeah, there you go. Put that into the side of an orange juice bottle and then put it down to the ground, and you had yourself a tubing for whatever. I miss those. Those were really fun days of building terrain pieces.
Yeah, and then nowadays they actually just make so many terrain pieces. It's more of like, well, I don't have time. What do I want to buy?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it pretty much it sort of started with the Necromunda terrain. Let's say that's probably the progenitor of all that. Because the cardboard plus the plastic frames was the sweet spot at the time.
Oh yeah, I remember putting that together and building whatever, and doing the cardboard into the little plastic walls, and building up pieces and then setting them down. And it was like, this is cool. We got this table and it's really small and it's got all this cool terrain and it's all really high. And I'm like, we need more of this stuff.
Yep. And then they followed it up with the Imperial Firebase, the Imperial Bastion, and one other one that were more 40K versions of those, using the same exact plastic sprues, and just different cardboard pieces. But for some reason they stopped doing them, which was too bad because those were great. And then they went into full-scale plastic terrain. I mean, good lord, the whole Cities Death release was based around plastic terrain. That was baller.
Yeah, those were amazing.
Yeah. God, do they even still make those? I don't even know.
I don't know. I'm sure they sell them.
I like DT's, and he used cotton balls as arranged as nebulas for a huge attack wing game. I mean, and stuff like that. I say I miss the hobby part of that because. And
I don't, because our entire basement is consumed with that.
I miss the hobby time. Because when I was building my Arena Rex one, it was... I had a blast doing it. I worked like 2 days on it, did it real quick, and, got it, and I was like, really cool. And then, of course, it got destroyed by someone stepping their feet on all the walls and destroyed all the walls. But I was like, well, I'll fix it. But, I mean, it was really cool. I was really proud of it. And it was the first time... It's been a while since I've built terrain. I mean, you can always put a stick on a base. But I mean, this was a whole board. This was terrain features, like I said, the bendy straws for making stuff for 40K. Because when I started, you didn't buy pre-terrain. You had to make it. Yep. So everybody kept all their styrofoam. Everybody had their own styrofoam cutters. Everybody, built everything.
You mean the hot wire tool?
Oh yeah.
Oh yep. We have,
and to answer my own question, they do still make it. As a matter of fact, GW actually has a good variety of terrain available. It's all very GW-y, very gothic and
full skulls
or alien-y. In fact, this had a couple releases this week, I think, which is all these weird plasma things, plasma conduits and all that, with their own special rules, of course. But, a very interesting piece of terrain. You can actually really good, and they're all plastic, so that's always a bonus because it's so much easier to work with.
What I was saying, Hinton BT was talking about, he used to do it and just got thrown away because where he was going and using it. But I mean, he was talking about it was fun getting together with your friends and building and going, all right, I'm going to build this and spray paint it and get it all done and have terrain pre-built for everybody. I mean, even if it was simple stuff like cardboard cutout and then trees glued on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
That way, or
Yeah.
because I took, what I did is I built a piece of terrain, um, took the court and flattened it out, uh, painted it like a forest floor, and then glued the bases of the railroad trees on it, painted that, and then put the trees in that holes. And so when if anybody needed to, they could just pull the tree off to move their models on it.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so, but I mean, that was really fun to do. I have no.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't see you don't see many people building terrain anymore.
I know Archidan from Tectonic actually had a train building day with his stuff down in Virginia before Nova opened this year. So this still happens, but it's a lot more pre-built stuff, not much of the make your own terrain. But I think that's because, I guess, we're spoiled now. I think it's the best way of saying it. Between the pre-made terrain sets and the fact that a lot of stores make their own terrain and have their own terrain, people are kind of spoiled. At the other local store, Third Eye Games, one of the local guys is just making 40K terrain. I see it posted on their group every week, like, "Hey, look what I just made." I'm like, "That's cool, dude." You do more of that actually as a community. Get together, even if it's just you're bringing kits to put together and paint. Something.
We have terrain days for Adepticon.
Mm-hmm.
So because all the terrain for all the different tournaments that go on has to be made by somebody, and whether you're
3D and super legit.
And some of it is the just assembling the plastic GW kind of stuff, but some of it is, we're building buildings today, or we're all building hills today, because all of these other games need other stuff that's not GW stuff, you need Bolt Action needs farms, and they are like Malifaux, they've got some great boards at the Malifaux tournaments there. So
I mean, especially like you're talking about Adepticon, and being how many 40K tables you'll have to have a ton of terrain. I mean, that's a huge amount of terrain that you have to
every time they're adjusting the rules, that makes some of the terrain obsolete, and so more other terrain that's going to work with those rules needs to be made. So we're always updating things.
Yeah.
I would say without any hyperbole that Adepticon is the gold standard of terrain. It's actually the reason we had an argument locally about 2D terrain after several of us went to War Machine Weekend and we had our pictures and they're like, "What's this shit?" I'm like, "That's 2D terrain. They have a ton of tables." He's like, "Adepticon does 3D terrain on every table and they have more people." And I'm like, "They're Adepticon."
Like I said, but it also goes to be what the game allows for terrain and how the game handles terrain. Being the more, I wouldn't say more competitive, but the measurement more competitive.
Yeah.
Because in 40K you don't have to be so careful on the measurements, per se.
For me, it's about the visual part of the game too. That's why I like the miniatures. That's why I'm not playing Advanced Squad Leader with a bunch of little tiles and hexes,
You're not playing Advanced Squad Leader? That's my shit. That's my cousin John's shit. And
I like the models. And if I've got models, I want to have terrain to put them on.
Very, yeah.
I'm not saying it's wrong to do 2D terrain, because like I said before, there's no wrong way to do the hobby. But personally, I like to have a board that's full of all kinds of things I can hide behind or work around. To me, that just adds extra strategy to the game.
Absolutely. And Maximum DT just mentioned the Dust Tactics Tenements buildings. You can Google them. That came out years ago. Are really great for intact buildings. Like if you want a bottom floor that's intact of a building, or even as many as you want, if you can find some of those. I do not know if they still make them because Dust Tactics is in a weird place, but they're very cool because it's literally just the walls and then some cardboard pieces for the floors. But if you don't have enough floors, you can always replace them with Plasticard. And that's another one. Plasticard is super cool for building buildings and such.
Oh,
Plastic
I remember that.
card, get the thin pink foam that's like a 1/4 inch.
Or whatever plastic art. We
You
find
know,
white sheets that are whatever, super
Cardboard.
thin. Mhm.
So many things. I'm just plastic card that costs a little bit more than just your average hunk of cardboard.
It depends on how you want it. Like, I would do the interior floors with cardboard because you're not gonna say people putting stuff in there. They'd be a little more like, yeah, whatever. The top floor is gonna get a lot more use, and I would do that in plastic card just for so it lasts longer. And then was he also mentions the Star Wars Legion Screams for custom terrain. As a matter of fact, there's actually on Kickstarter, there is a Kickstarter for custom terrain that looks like the bunker and the shield generator and such for Star Wars. They're running that right now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't remember what the name is. I will see if I can find it quickly. Oh, it's from Battle Kiwi, and it's called Endor Tabletop Wargaming Terrain, and you have 5 days to go. It's got the landing pad, a shield generator, and a bunker, and they do it together in different ways, and it's not terribly expensive. Granted,
Now,
it's
is this
Kiwi money.
like
I don't know
Legion scale? Or
assuming, yeah, it's 28 millimeter scale.
I'm interested to see that game. I haven't really seen anything, about the mechanics or anything.
I've seen a little bit, yeah, and it's cool. The bunker's got a top that comes off. It's got blast doors that open up. Little computer consoles you can put in there. It is a very cool looking Kickstarter. That if you're interested in that stuff, you might play it. It also worked for $40K. Give it a shot, man. There's one picture he's got with the landing pad with an AT-AT next to it, and it's scaled properly for whatever AT-AT he used. It's right up to the side there. That is super legit.
I mean, so for the most part, we all like 3D terrain.
Oh, yeah.
But we're depending on the game system?
Yeah, depending on the game system, I could go with 2D terrain. I couldn't imagine playing 40K on 2D terrain. I've never seen it done.
No, I couldn't see that either. I couldn't see that with like Infinity, Necromunda. I can't see that with Company of Iron.
I could see it with Company of Iron. I could see it with Malifaux, but it doesn't happen.
I don't think it doesn't look as good either.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, with War Machine and Hordes, when you're playing the competitive style, yeah, I see the reason why for 2D terrain. It's understandable.
And honestly, I think after a discussion, I see why so many people are up in arms against 2D terrain in War Machine and Hordes. If they're the only true miniatures games that uses 2D terrain, people are always wondering, why so different?
Yeah. So, because I take the bus. That's actually a good point. 3D terrain is a pain in the butt to store.
Oh yeah, I mean, I did a review of I got the Muse terrain at War Machine Weekend a couple years ago, and I'm grabbing my backpack now. That's why you're seeing my back.
You have no idea how many containers we have that are holding our terrain for various different games.
Yeah, when War Machine Weekend, the tables downstairs is exactly for the main tables.
That's enough for a table.
Yeah,
easily. It's more than enough.
I can't even imagine that. I've never played with 2D terrain.
It's an interesting thing. Like in a pinch, because I've got this old GW backpack, I can hit 2 of their old black figure cases in it, and the terrain fits right in. I mean, I could have a game just about anywhere there's a flat surface. So I mean, it's got that going for it.
Correct. I mean, because like I said, our Youngblood area or our Iron Arena area, so people can just play games when they want. That's all 3D terrain, and we got those big plastic tubs just filled. AK has these big plastic tubs just filled with terrain, and it's a pain in the butt. So you're just like, I can understand the reason why 2D terrain for competitive style games, but I would rather see 3D terrain on the table no matter what.
Yeah, and Hinton BE mentions that they do Pathfinder every week, and when they use minis, they use terrain. They just use a battle map for flat terrain. They actually make 3D terrain for that. Dwarven Forge has made 3D terrain forever. My buddy in the military, his wife bought him a set, but he was moving around so much. He's like, "I'm leaving this with you." So I have a set in my storage unit of that stuff. Used it once or twice. I mean, it's a pain in the ass to set up and get going, but it looks super awesome with the models.
Oh
Yeah, I like Dwarven Forge. They do some good stuff.
Yep.
It's the gold standard of terrain, but like the gold standard, you're paying for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, that's another thing. That's the reason why a lot of people don't buy a lot of 3D terrain. They make it because it's expensive.
That's the thing with 2D terrain. That whole bag of 2D terrain was like $40. It wasn't even expensive.
Nope.
There was somebody at ReaperCon selling that with the neoprene backing.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I had never seen it before. I didn't realize it was a huge thing until really this conversation.
If you play a game where that much terrain would work for you, I heartily suggest picking it up because it's just so much easier. When I reviewed it for Pain Without John, somebody posted that they carry like 2 tables worth of Infinity terrain in their car. I'm like, well, hats off to you, sir. Not everyone has that option.
Correct.
There's a guy who goes to the local store, has a smart car. He can't carry terrain in that smart car. I'm surprised he can carry models. I mean, it's out there.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. I mean, some people are going to have small cars that can't carry all this extra shit.
Yep.
You know, and if you don't have, you're stuck with the store has or what you can bring. I always have that, so I always have a game. I just need the flat surface.
Yeah, I mean, I have a table that I used for demoing when I was a press ganger, and it's a 4x4. It was an 8x4 piece of plywood that I cut down, and then I have it where it folds up. But I have a bunch of flat terrain that I stick in there for demoing. It was so much easier to carry that, especially when I had to go to like all over the state to demo War Machine and Hordes.
Which is funny because I totally understand that, even though I think demoing is the one time you want 3D terrain for the visual aspect. But yeah, I mean, the reality of transporting all the terrain has to come in somewhere. And I would say that to people when you're judging others, because we love to judge, think about the circumstances they're in. Like, yes, Adepticon may have all the awesome 3D terrain, but Adepticon has a lot of volunteers who are super awesome, and they go the extra mile because they also require everyone to have all painted models for their events because that's what they're about. And someone lower, like War Machine Weekend, may not have that same requirement, and may have a lot more. We have different requirements for their terrain, and that's why they're letting flat terrain in there. I mean, just trying to judge too harshly on people. You know, use what you want, but just try not to be too harsh on the people when they're.
I had to step up because we were talking about stuff, and I had to go to the closet because I was thinking about it, and I was like, I do have this stuff. Some of the stuff I did, and I did a hobby day, and this is just the cork sheets, and this is my flat hills that I made for demoing.
Oh yeah,
and I mean it's still pretty flat. I mean you can see there it's pretty flat, so you can get models on it, and they can sit on the sides, and I mean that was quick and easy. I mean. Tore it up. I mean, it's just corkboard. Tore it up, primed it, dry brushed it, and then put the dirt and stuff on it. I mean, and I made, pretty decent sized ones. And this was back when, terrain was a lot bigger and you could have more stuff on it. And this is also what I did I didn't want to spend too much time. But that was, this is also what I did, forest with. The forest was all it was just one piece, but then I had, glued the trees on it. And I think these look pretty damn cool.
I was more impressed with the closet you can walk into.
I did do a cleaning out of that closet.
Hold on a second. Let me just give you an example. That's my closet. I can't fit in there, much less fit a body in there. Jesus.
But, Legionnaires, I do like, Dan and I have talked about that stuff and talked about his stuff, and he's got some really good stuff, and it's small enough that it's not huge, but he also makes some good stuff that is for like Guild Ball. He's got some really good Guild Ball terrain.
And
really?
Other stuff is really good too. Like the one I always look at is his I think it's a crane. that he has. That thing is super awesome. I want that for Infinity because it's just like, look at that thing.
Yeah.
And he makes, like, he's got good bundles and stuff of, as he calls it, grimdark terrain.
Yep.
And honestly, MDF or plastic, does it really matter much? One's a little bit easier to work with, but man, he's got a great bundle for a great price.
Yeah.
Oh, I could probably actually talk to Dan to see if he could make a locomotive for you there, Legionnaires.
I think he's got one. I saw a train car real quick.
So.
I know somebody else who does train cars too out of laser cut wood, and that's
You also have model kits. Look for model kits. It's hard to figure out the exact scale, and I want to say 172, something like that. Maybe it's 135. 135.
Not 148.
Yeah, so somewhere in that area.
For like a 28 to 30 millimeter scale, more like 1/52nd or some craziness.
Yeah, I
it's
had
like a little bit smaller than a 148.
It's basically O scale. I think it's O scale train stuff is the correct scale. Now you don't want to buy trains for that, but look at the model kits. Look at the scale. Do some quick math. I think it's like it's between 1/35th and 1/50th, somewhere in that area. Take a model with you if you need to. Just have a little model if you're going to look for model kits. Get an idea. Go online. You can find out real quickly what scale is correct. You might find something that's good. Do you need wrecked cars for? What they're talking about, the Fallout game that's coming out. You need wrecked cars. Find car model kits that are in there. Just rack them up. Good lord, that's a good hobby time.
Just today I saw somebody else's MDF terrain that he made for the Fallout.
Mm-hmm.
And that was amazing. And he had it lit, each individual room in this structure was lit. Wow. It was really cool.
That's next level.
Oh, it is actually past time. We are missing media selection, and since John watched like 19 movies, he's going to have a lot of time.
Tell us about all your movies, John.
7 movies, and 2 of them I don't need to talk about because Thor: The Dark World was in minis and movies like 2, and then The Avengers: Age of Ultron was in minis and movies 4, which was released this week. Because I got time to record. Speaking of which, I'm going to stop after the end of Phase 2 with the Marvel movies. Not that I don't love Marvel movies, but you can only hear me gush about Marvel movies for so long before it becomes boring. Because I just gush. Like, literally after Thor: The Dark World's the last one I am super critical of. Everything after that, I'm just like, yeah, it's fucking awesome. What do you want? Oh, give my Ant-Man review. Yep, it's fucking awesome. But yeah, I watched Avengers: Age of Ultron. It's still great. We watched most of Thor: The Dark World until someone's like, let's just go see Thor Ragnarok again so that Marshall can see it and we can start telling the jokes that are appropriate with that. But I watched one new movie and then a bunch of movies I've seen before. So the one I watched new is actually a short movie. It's called Halo: The Fall of Reach. It's on Netflix for free. I've been on a bit of a Halo Red versus Blue kick on YouTube, so I figured I'd give it a shot. And I would say that it's interesting, but not amazing, because it's sort of like the origin of Master Chief, who, while cool, is not the most riveting protagonist ever.
No.
And if you're into the Halo, I'm sure it's much more interesting. I'm only tangentially into Halo, because I just haven't... I mean, it's got a good background. I mean, for a sci-fi property, it's good, solid background, but it's never been amazing. It's just more something I watched because, like I said, I was on YouTube watching Red vs. Blue, and God, where that series just went. It's crazy.
Oh my God. But, okay, you can't say Red versus Blue without talking about Chupacabra. I mean, that right there, that one scene set that entire group of people up for life. Yeah,
well, no, the real key afterwards is, so if you don't know Red vs. Blue, I love Red vs. Blue. I talked about it on John a while ago. It starts off just guys with their Xbox or Xbox 2 doing Halo things and dubbing voices. Ended up with Bungie giving them an engine so they could run whatever they needed to in that graphic style.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up as really, really good sci-fi.
Yeah.
I mean, their whole freelancer project, which I think is seasons. I'm spitballing. It's like 6 to 9, something like that. Check it out. It's got some really amazing sci-fi fight scenes. It's great. This is not that. It's mediocre. I give it 2.5 shots of Kraken. If you like Halo more, you would like it better. But it's only about an hour long, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's in and out quick, and pretty cool.
Cool.
Gonzo, you should hit us up with one before I go into the double feature.
All right. Actually, I want to do a review of one that I've seen already, and I rewatched it again after seeing it. And you have to dedicate a ton of time because it's a 3-hour movie. And this is Cloud Atlas.
Oh, okay.
And this is it's about my 3rd time seeing it. I like watching it. I like putting it in and, start doing painting or, whatever project I'm working on. And I really, really like Cloud Atlas. It hit some good emotional feels for me. It has some good lines in it. Some good lines that are relevant. When he says, you're just a drop in in a sea of ocean, and he says, but what is an ocean but a multitude of drops? Mm-hmm. And that's really relevant to what the story was about. Of course, all the actors are amazing in it.
Oh yeah.
Tom Hanks, we go on. They all play multiple roles and all. I couldn't imagine filming that though, and trying to keep everything straight. And I'm sure they had a schedule of this is this, this is this, this is this. But I mean,
well, honestly, they probably filmed it out of order than you see it.
Correct.
They film all of one vignette as one, and then chop it up in the editing room.
Of course, but I mean, still, that was a pretty big undertaking. I would consider that a big undertaking, having to flip all the different characters and the makeup, and the costumes. Of course, this is done by Matrix.
The Wachowski siblings.
Yep. And so it was really interesting. It's got a good story. If you can't handle things flipping and flopping constantly, you're not going to like it. But if you can handle it, and you can sit and devote time to it. I actually stopped what I was doing and says, nope, I'm going to sit here and enjoy this movie because I really like it. Visuals, everything. I loved it from beginning to end for the 3rd time. So I would say maybe a shot or two of Kraken if it's not your thing. But overall, it's a really great movie. I could watch it again right now.
Yeah, I think that's not an everyman movie, unfortunately. It doesn't have wide appeal.
Correct.
Kathy, before we roll into other stuff, did you watch anything?
I finally watched Rogue One.
Oh my! Well, let's hear your review of Rogue One.
It isn't much of a review. It was another Star Wars movie. It had robots. It had, guys shooting laser guns. Now, I have to say, I mean, I've been a fan of Star Wars since I was 7 when the original Star Wars first came out. So I didn't hate it. It's another one, and there's really not much to say about it. It's like you and your Marvel movies. Like, yeah, I liked it. It was Star Wars.
That's fair.
And I will like the next one that's coming out very, very soon.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I don't even watch trailers for it anymore because I'm already hyped enough. I only see trailers.
I don't watch trailers for stuff at all.
Some I have to. Like Justice League that we reviewed last week, I was not in until I saw trailers. I'm like, this might not be a shit show. And it wasn't.
And I missed your review of that. So, and I didn't get to go see it.
So, capsule review. I liked it a little better than Gonzo did, but neither of us thought it was not worth watching.
Correct.
In fact, my mom wants to see it, so I'll be seeing it again here in a couple weeks when it gets into cheap theaters.
I'll just be waiting until it's out on Netflix.
Wow. Apparently, Gonzo liked it a lot more than I did, a lot less than I did. But anyways,
so what did you give it, Kathy?
Yeah. I give it no shots of Kraken. I don't think it's necessary to drink with that one. It was fun to watch.
Good.
I really enjoyed when the Corsair rams the Star Destroyer.
Oh, the Hammerhead, yeah.
It was awesome.
That was super cool. Now on the other end of the spectrum, let's talk about some movies that require shots of Kraken. My double feature was G.I. Joe: Rise of Cobra and G.I. Joe: Resolute or Retaliation.
So much Kraken.
Not that much Kraken actually. So G.I. Joe: Rise of Cobra was flawed from the start because it's Stephen Sommer, who did the Mummy movies, trying to use all of his favorite actors again in roles that they're maybe not perfect for, and taking that as a standard. They were trying too much to make just a standard action movie out of it. You know how sometimes we complain about fan service? This didn't have enough fan service. A couple of vehicles, like every time a vehicle came up that looked like it was supposed to, you were like, hell's yeah. Like the Night Raven towards the end was awesome. It looked like the Night Raven. That was cool. But for every scene that was super cool like that, or some of the fights, there was another scene that was like, really? You did this to me? You're doing that? Okay. So, Rise of Cobra was not very good. Not even some decent acting jobs can save it. Ray Park as Snake Eyes is awesome. Byung-Hun Lee as Storm Shadow was awesome. Arnold Vosloo as Zartan was decent. And unfortunately, that's the best thing for the rest of the crew. This was before Channing Tatum hit his stride. He was mediocre at best. Sienna Miller playing the Baroness was miscast and miswrote. Like, there's a lot of problems with this movie. I'm just going to skip to the end. I give it 2.5 shots of Kraken. It is an average action movie. You might like it a little more if you're a fan of G.I. Joe. You might actually like it a little less if you're a fan of G.I. Joe. But on to the second one, G.I. Joe Retaliation, which is a significantly better movie in everything. They legitimately trying to make things look like they did in the toys and all. Like the Hiss tanks they make look closer to the toys, but not exactly. They're actually taking a leeway. I'm not sure The Rock as Roadblock was perfect, but I mean, it's The Rock. Who doesn't like The Rock? They did all the acting jobs were much better. Snake Eyes' costume in Rise of Cobra, he had molded lips in his costume. Like, what the fuck are you doing there? They fixed that. He was good. As a matter of fact, there is an absolutely awesome fight scene on a mountain monastery that is Snake Eyes and Jinx versus a bunch of people. There's no words. There's no dialogue at all through the entire thing. It's awesome. And luckily, unlike the other movie, for every 2 scenes that are super awesome, there's 1 scene that's kind of mediocre or worse. It actually continues straight where the first one left off, with Zartan impersonating the president and doing stupid shit, betraying the Joes. Channing Tatum's in it for a short period and is way more likable than he was for the entire first one, so hats off to him. The Rock's cool. Most of the acting performances are decent. The action's super cool. In fact, I think the only misstep they made was putting Bruce Willis in this movie. And I like Bruce Willis. His stuff just didn't hit. It's like, he was phoning it in, I'm going to be honest. But still, that takes it up a notch to maybe 2 shots of Kraken, maybe a little more if you're a fan of action movies in general. Some good action, some great, like, one amazing scene, which is worth watching the movie for if you can find it for free. Unfortunately, it's not for free anywhere. I actually purchased it because I'm John, and shitty action movies are my stock and trade. So 2 shots of Kraken. I do recommend watching both of them, especially if you can find them cheaper or free. But do not go super out of your way for them.
Cool.
On to what you got next.
One of mine, and it's a remake.
Oh.
It is a remake, and I'm not big on westerns, but I'll watch a good western. I ain't got a problem with it. And that's the new Magnificent Seven, or the newer Magnificent.
I've been wanting to see that one.
Careful, sir. You're treading on dangerous ground.
Oh, I've been curious about that one.
Okay, so it's been a while since I saw the original Magnificent Seven. So I went in and going, okay, not going to worry about it. Didn't do anything about it. It says, okay, I know the standard story of what Magnificent Seven is. The cast, okay, it wasn't a bad cast. I think Chris Pratt steals the whole show with all of his lines and stuff and what he does in there. I can't really. I don't want to compare it to the original because it's been so long since I've seen the original that I can't do it.
It's a loose comparison, even if you've seen it recently.
Yeah, but I mean, as a cowboy shoot 'em up, good guy versus bad guy show, it was good. Was it funny in parts? Of course, Chris Pratt is in there. There's some good scenes. There's some kind of really you could do that with a gun type scenes. But I mean, overall, it wasn't a bad movie. It was actually pretty fun. It had some good things going for it. I didn't feel bored. It was predictable, of course.
Of course.
But overall, I thought it was really, really good. I liked it a lot. I would say if you're a fan of the originals and it's like oh my god, Magnificent Seven, the original is great and awesome and the best thing ever, then of course, you're not going to like it as much.
I'll be honest, if you think that Magnificent Seven is amazing and original and the best thing ever, watch The Seven Samurai.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. But I mean, it wasn't a bad Western. It had some good scenes in it, had some really fun stuff, had some good feels. I'd say a shot or two, if that. But I mean,
I would go a shot
good.
Maximum. I mean, I thought the cast was great, actually.
Yeah.
Denzel Washington, anything. I say often, you can say Denzel's starring the Teletubbies movie, and I'm like, I'll watch it. Fuck, it's Denzel.
Yeah. I mean, it was good. I think Chris Pratt stole the show. Just because he had some really good scenes and he's got some really good lines.
I can see that, but I actually feel like he was too Chris Pratt-y. You know what I mean?
I can see
He felt
that.
too close to his other roles for this movie, but it wasn't like it's not really a problem unless you're looking for a problem.
Yes. I was gonna say, you actually had to go, oh, this sucks because X, Y, Z.
You'd be like, I didn't like that one thing, because otherwise, I mean, all the cast is great. Ethan Hawke is great.
Yep.
As Goodnight Robichaud. I mean, Kathy, this movie is for free. It should still be free on Amazon Prime. If you have that,
I will
check
look
it out.
it up, yeah.
I enjoyed also. I would give it at most one shot of crack in. I saw it in the theater. My buddy has it at his place. We watch it occasionally there. It's got some amazing scenes.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
One, maybe two shots if you're not into it.
I am a fan of Westerns, so I definitely have to look that up. I also have to watch Godless on Netflix, I'm told. That's fun.
I got through the first episode of that right now. Just started that today because I finished Mindhunter. And so I watched the first episode of Godless.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I'm behind on stuff. I got to catch up.
I enjoyed Mindhunters, and we can talk about Godless later. Because I'm gonna watch that.
So, John, do you have another one?
Oh, I have two more that I could talk about.
Okay.
Next
give me one.
is The Man with the Iron Fists. Continuing the RZA being in a movie, because the RZA was in G.I. Joe Retaliation as the Blind Master. He didn't add anything to that movie, unfortunately. He is the titular Man with the Iron Fists in this movie. He's the blacksmith. And unless I missed my guess, so the whole idea is he's a slave he was freed, but got into trouble in America and fled to China.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I missed my guess, during the scene where he signed his papers freeing him on his deathbed, the plantation owner, I guess, his last name is Smith, and he's black, and he's a blacksmith. And I thought that was a little much, but hey, who knows? So Kung Fu actions in this is pretty solid. Not amazing. It's definitely not a Hong Kong movie. But the RZA's love for Kung Fu movies shows through since he's involved in it. The cast is solid. It's got Lucy Liu. Russell Crowe is, and I've never thought I'd say this statement, he is subtly chewing the scenery. I didn't think he could do it subtly, but you can tell he's having a great time. And every once in a while, he's just absolutely chewing the scenery, but otherwise, he's just really enjoying himself and nailing it. He makes this movie better in every way. Because the other guys in it, the Batistas before he really got. He was early in his career. He wasn't amazing, but he was solid. Obviously, Lucy Liu is an old veteran. She was great in it. Overall, the cast is solid. The RZA may be the weakest part of the actual cast, but he tries. Bless him. And, I mean, it's shortish. It's only like an hour and 5 minutes. Solid kung fu action. Decent story. And the RZA is a poet laureate. Let me just hand you these lines delivered by him. But these motherfuckers have a Gatling gun and more bullets than there's rice in China. Because, I mean, how can you argue with a line like that? Hey, man. The actual line of the movie. I want to give it better, but I can't give it better than 2 shots of Kraken because...
You need a shot for each one of those lines.
It's a 2-shot of Krakener because, while it is a solid action movie, it is absolutely crazy. My buddy Alex was watching it, and something happened. He's like, looks at me like, I'm not sure I believe that. I'm like, wait. This guy's got fists that someone made for him at a blacksmithery that they've nailed to his arm, and now he can use his ki to manipulate the fingers and all like they're part of him. And you have a problem with something else in this movie? Come on. Oh. But it is super cool. I definitely, if you can find it for free, watch it twice. But it's super fun. It's a solid modern kung fu movie. I mean, you're not getting Jackie Chan or Jet Li quality, but you're getting, for an American kung fu movie, it's quite good. Damning praise at best. Oh, Kanzo, what's your next one?
My last one is I watched finally Kong Skull Island.
Oh, really?
The new Kong movie,
Yeah.
King Kong movie, and I was enjoying it. I was like, okay, this is cool. This is a King Kong movie. Got King Kong, giant monsters, other things going on. That was really cool. That was really neat. Until we got to the end of it, and we got to the end of the King Kong versus the giant monster fight, and I just wanted to punch somebody. It was. Spoilers, it's out, it's free now, so I mean, spoiler, the end fight scene, King Kong uses chains and propellers and things to kill monsters. No, King Kong just beats the out of everything with his fist and bites and kicks and just kills
Gorilla
things.
style, if you will.
Yes. And I mean, what they had him do, I was just like, no. I was not happy with the ending fight scene. Everything else was fine, though. The entire movie up to that part was good. I was like, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, the character's still in the show. Yes, this is the new Kong. And I was just like, I was really happy with it. I mean, the giant monsters I hadn't seen before. New type of theme type stuff, It was really good. Acting was fine. Some good lines. Is that a big monkey? It was just really good until the ending fight scene, and I was just like, this is crap. This is just crap.
And isn't that the worst when the movie ends on a downer? That just like a bad scene, not like a Logan downer, but on an actual God, that scene was terrible.
I mean, King Kong. Okay, he gets tossed into a bunch of wreckage of ships, and all of a sudden these chains are wrapped around him. And he can't get out. So he pulls on it, and he gets a flail in one hand, which is a giant chain, and a huge propeller from a ship on the end of it, and uses it as a weapon. That's not Kong.
Yeah, they're trying too hard to make that into a series, into a franchise.
Yeah. It's like they were trying too hard. I was like,
yes.
You could have just had Kong just beat the crap out of the main monster, and I'd have been damn happy with it, and just go, balls to wall, fisticuffs, biting, punching, ripping heads off, that stuff, and I would have been perfectly fine with it. When they started adding that crap into it, like, yeah, no. Just, nope. Couldn't get into it.
How many shots?
I gotta say 2. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. Everything up until the very end was good. The very end, yeah, you need some shots of Kraken to get through it. So, I gotta say 2.
Fair enough. And the last one I'll talk about, since I'm not going to cover it on Minis and Movies, is Mr. Doctor, a.k.a. Doctor Strange.
And?
It's still awesome. I mean, it's one of the Marvel movies where we always say we're worried about a Marvel movie. Like, I'm worried about Black Panther. I'm a little worried that it's not aiming for the right mark. But let's be honest, it's Marvel. They don't make a lot of missteps.
Mm-mm.
I mean, no matter what you say their worst movie is, whether it be Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Thor 1, Thor 2, The Hulk, all those movies are all solid. At the absolute least. So, I mean, can we really worry anymore? But I was worried how they could handle it, and they hit it out of the park. I mean, that is a great, fun, and entertaining movie with the absolute best villain resolution ever. I mean, he's bargaining. He's there to bargain. The scene is great. I mean, it's just... It introduced Doctor Strange in an absolute great way. It was an origin story done right, which is hard to do nowadays. I mean, we talk about movies that have, like the one we watched last week, that has a problem with having too many origin stories at once, or not covering them, so you're left, like, what's going on here. This one just did it right, and did it quick, did it easy. It is a great movie. I mean, at most, you just shot a Kraken. It does have sort of the Thor Ragnarok problem, where a couple moments that are meant to be badass or poignant are undercut by comedy. But I think that may be what Marvel's going for. They don't want you to get so low or anything. They want to keep you in it. Which for, I guess, let's say, more refined moviegoers is a bit of a problem. Because it was a Thor Ragnarok problem that everyone just about was undercut by comedy. This is a couple. It's not nearly the same problem in this. It's entirely forgivable and still, like, at worst, a shot of Kraken. At worst. I don't even think you need that. Heck, I'd watch it again right now. Maybe I will.
So how many shots?
Well, one at most.
At most.
I would love to hear if I still had friends who did drugs. I would love to see their reaction after watching that movie on drugs, because I imagine it's a fucking experience. And I wish Crazy Eyes could see 3D in the movies, because it was probably an amazing spectacle in 3D. The visuals are just off the chain, unlike the propeller.
Kathy, do you have a movie you want to talk about?
I did watch Breakfast at Tiffany's again.
Oh, it's a classic.
George Papard and Audrey Hepburn, and I still like it. I still cried at the end when they lose the cat.
Spoilers?
It is a classic.
You can't spoilers a movie that old. Not spoilers a movie that old.
Also, you've clearly never seen it.
I'm just giving you crap.
But I you have to drink Kraken because everybody in the movie is drinking, and you don't want to feel left out.
I don't know exactly how old you are, but this movie's older than you. I'm certain of it.
No, I'm giving crap.
Can't spoil the movie older than you.
I know.
That had to have been the 1950s.
Yeah.
61.
That one. 61.
Wikipedia for the win.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
So you're saying you don't have to have Kraken to see it. You just want to have Kraken or something to drink because everybody's drinking.
So you can feel like part of the party that's on screen.
Yep.
Fair enough.
All right, guys. It is now past our bedtime. Well, not
And
that
I have
old.
to pee-pee.
You have to pee-pee. But before we go, guys, I want to let you know, please hit subscribe or follow us on YouTube and Twitch. It helps us out a lot. Also, check out our Patreon account and see if there's something they're doing. We will be adding some new stuff to that shortly. Give us a little bit. I think you will like what's coming up if we can get what we're trying to get done with a couple of companies that we're working with. And we're going to try to add some more things to the Patreon that will help us out. and bring some stuff to y'all, please hit likes and subscribe to our Twitch and YouTube channel.
And like us on Facebook, and
Definitely.
you'll get all of the updates that way.
Yes,
And
we
feel
really
free
appreciate
to
it.
throw us comments and questions and concerns, however you can find us, because we want to make it better for you guys. I mean, we like doing this. We also want to make it stuff that you guys like as well.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, John does his minis and movies. Kathy is going to be doing the tutorials.
Yeah, if you have hobby questions, or if there's something that you would like to see as a tutorial video for the Patreon subscribers, definitely send us a message on Facebook.
100%, guys. Tell us. We want to know if anything's going to happen. Anything you want to know, like object source lighting. I'm trying to learn that, and that's something I'd like to see. So we'll bug Kathy and see if she can get one of those up. But
Or if
definitely
it's a
something
shitty
to-
movie,
No, maybe that'll be my. Oh, definitely shitty movies, and yeah. So maybe the December tutorial video will be object source lighting.
Oh, what's up?
Also, I'm going to be reviewing some board games and some RPGs. So I'll be adding that to the thing. So it'll be a 3-for-1. Of course, I'll do just some for free because I like reviewing RPGs because they're like an old hobby collection of mine. I have way too many. So we'll be adding that board game. So if there's a board game you want us to review or an RPG, tabletop RPG, let us know. We'll get to it. And there's paints or brushes that you have questions about. Kathy, have you ever used this airbrush? You know, reviews on stuff like that is really important to people. And if you have something you want us to do, let us know. Leave us a message. Put it on our Facebook. Email us. Everything. We're happy to do it. We good? All right.
I have to pee.
He has to pee, and I have to do the outro. I'm Gonzo, so make sure you take care of each other. Be nice.
I'm John. I have to pee.
Kathy, you gotta hold on and make sure he holds on a little bit longer.
I'm Kathy, and bye.
Don't make me laugh. The pee will come out.
Okay, did you hear the? Yeah, I got nothing.
John, you can't go anywhere. Remember, this is our blooper part. You have to stay to pee.
That's fine. I've held it for a long time.
Oh
before. I don't like it.
no! Peeing on screen.
I've held it for the entirety of a movie before. It was uncomfortable. I peed for like 5 minutes afterwards. It was so bad people looked at me like I was strange because I was still peeing.
Is this like in Revenge of the Nerds when the one guy is in the bathroom and you're just hearing him just going and going and going?
Yeah.
Everybody starts looking over there like, what the hell is wrong with this guy?
Yep, it's like that.